Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
As a result of a practice crash, Speedy Comet is now out for the season! But instead of Blinker finding a backup racer, Blinker instead fired Speedy Comet! Why, Blinker? And then, Ryan Inside Laney is a new rookie for the season, and Ryan Inside Laney will replace Speedy Comet as Blinker's racer. And then, Easy Idol, Carl Clutchen's sponsor, encouraged him to retire. And then, Carl Clutchen retired from Piston Cup racing. I feel bad for him. And Harvey Rodcap will be a new rookie representing Team Easy Idol. And will be replacing Doug Throttleman as Easy Idol's racer. And also, Team Mood Springs encouraged Doug Throttleman to retire. But then, Mood Springs would fire Doug Throttleman the jumper because he didn't want to retire. And then, Ed Trunken will become a new rookie representing Team Mood Springs and will replace Doug Throttleman as Mood Springs racer in the Piston Cup. And Team Revolting spotted a talented racer. And as a result of this, TG Castlenut would be fired by his team! And this talented racer is Aaron Clocker, who is a new rookie this season and will be replacing TG Castlenut. And then, N2O Cola would fire Parker Breakston. He wasn't very good anyways. And to replace him will be HJ Hollis. You might recognize HJ Hollis because he is the thumbnail of my most viewed video. Thank you, HJ Hollis. I will always remember you for being the thumbnail of my most viewed video. And HJ Hollis is a new rookie in the Piston Cup. And, as I've already mentioned, will be replacing Parker Breakston as the N2O Cola racer. Now on to Team Nitroade, who said this, wanting a next generation racer. What will Phil Tankson think of this? But first, let's hear from Andrew Axler, who said this. And then he would say this to James Garrison. And James Garrison would say this back, supporting his teammate Phil Tankson. But then Andrew Axler would say this. But James Garrison would say this in return. And then Andrew Axler would say this. Hey, that's not very nice to James. And then he said he never liked James Garrison. And then both Andrew Axler and Team Nitroade would leave Garrison Motorsports. And then Team Nitroade would fire Phil Tankson. Why? He's a good racer. And then Andrew Axler said this, saying that Garrison Motorsports could keep Phil Tankson. Tim Treadless will be a new rookie joining the Piston Cup. And Tim Treadless will be replacing Phil Tankson as Team Nitroade's racer. And then, during qualifying, James Garrison would unfortunately crash. And now he's out this race! I feel bad for James Garrison. And then, Andrew Axler says this! That's mean! And Lucas Marquez will be retiring from Piston Cup racing before the race. And Lucas Marquez would say this after his retirement. Cal Weathers would unfortunately be late for qualifying. Same with Bobby Swift, but both would still be able to try qualifying. And then Brick Yardley ran out of fuel during qualifying. Oh no! And Ronnie Carson would become Arthur Carstro's crew chief. And we have one more new rookie, Green Bean Carafine, who will be replacing Kane Carafine. I forgot to mention that all of the new rookies are next generation racers. Let's see if they'll be able to qualify for this race. Starting at pole position is last week's winner, Jackson Storm and Lightning McQueen, who's outside. Row 2 has Harvey Rodcap and Ed Trunken, both making their very first starts. Row 3 has another pair of racers making their first ever starts, Aaron Clocker and HJ Hollis. Row 4 has Ryan Inside Laney and Ricky Axel, who's outside. I wonder how he'll do this race. Row 5 has Reb Meeker and Rev Rodages, who's been doing really good over the last few weeks. Row 6 has Tim Treadless and Bruce Miller. I wonder how he'll do this race. Row 7 has Jack DePost and Tommy Highbanks to his outside. Now on to Row 8, where Dino Draftsky will be starting alongside Brian Sparks. And in Row 9, we have Maury Clutchburn and Chip Gearings, both of whom have qualified for every single race this season so far. Row 10 has Ernie Gearson, the oldest Piston Cup racer racing today, and Buck Beeringly. Row 11 has Paunchy Wipeout and Rex Revler, both hoping to get a win. Row 12 has Darren Ledfoot, who has won races before in the Piston Cup, and Matthew Overdrive to his outside. Row 13 has Floyd Movilhill and Terry Cargis. I wonder how both of them will do this race. Row 14 has Dirksen D'Agostino, who got a top 10 last weekend. Jimmy Cables, how are you all the way back here? Row 15 has Todd Marcus and Lane Locke. Hopefully both will do well this race. Row 16 has Ralph Carlo and Marcus Kranksler, who are both doing better than usual this season. Row 17 has Bobby Rotesta and Green Bean Carafine, who might be disappointed with how he qualified until he realizes that Row 18 has Cal Weathers and Bobby Swift. How did they qualify back here? And Row 19 has Brick Yardley and Kevin Carvick, both in the top 10 in points. And Row 20 has Martin Carks Jr. and Kyle Carson. Row 21 looks more normal, with Arthur Carstro and Elijah Voltson making his second start this season. And starting in 43rd is Tony Gaswart, a former Piston Cup champion. And these 12 cars, among many others, failed to qualify for this race. You might have noticed that in the qualifying screen, Pitbull Speed Racer doesn't look like this. Well, he explains here why he doesn't look like this anymore. And this is Pitbull Speed Racer's new look going forward. Now, onto the race, where Bob Cutlass says, "I'll tell you what, Daryl, Jackson Storm has certainly made an impact. We've got 6 more next generation rookies in the field today." He probably didn't notice Green Bean car feed. I feel bad for him. And then Daryl Cartrip says, "With 6 veterans fired to clear the way." And then Jackson Storm would say, "Morning, champ! How's our living legend today?" This is directed towards Lightning McQueen, who says, "Still very much alive, thank you. Now I would appreciate if..." And then Lightning McQueen would be interrupted by Jackson Storm, who would say, "You know, I can't believe I get to race the Lightning McQueen in his farewell season." Jackson, I don't think Lightning McQueen is going to retire yet. And then Lightning McQueen says, "What are you talking about? I asked the same question." And then Jackson Storm would say, "Oh, green flag. Good luck out there, champ. You're gonna need it." Now, let's finally get on to the race after 8 minutes of the video. After the green flag, Jackson Storm would start the race in the lead. But soon after the race began, Lightning McQueen would briefly take the lead before losing the lead to Jackson Storm, who would lead all the way until lap 48, where Lightning McQueen would pass Jackson Storm once again. But as pit cycles came, Ryan Inside Laney would take the lead, leading until lap 50. And then on lap 50, Elijah Voltson would have a cut tire. But Elijah Voltson would refuse to go to the garage. And then he would go down 5 laps as a result of getting repairs while on pit road. On lap 50, Jackson Storm would retake the lead and lead all the way until lap 82, where Lightning McQueen would pass him for the lead again. But after only a few yards, Jackson Storm would retake the lead, leading for 10 more laps before Aaron Clocker would take the lead off of pit cycles. But after the pit stops were done, Jackson Storm would take the lead once again, leading for 3 more laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead briefly once again, before, you guessed it, Jackson Storm would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 123, where H.J. Hollis would take the lead off of pit cycles. Shortly after H.J. Hollis took the lead, Lightning McQueen would be back in the lead. But then, as pit stops were finishing, Jackson Storm would take the lead once again. Then, on lap 163, Kevin Carvick would be 39th as of lap 163, where he wrecks himself, Brick Yardley, Kyle Carson, and Tony Gaswart. I feel bad for all of them. and Tim Treadless would get loose on lap 164, and Elijah Voltson would get back one of his laps on lap 164. Now he's 4 laps down, and Lightning McQueen would take the lead, leading until lap 165, where Ryan Inside Laney would take the lead once again. But then shortly after that, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, and then on lap 166, Jackson Storm would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 209. And then he would be in the lead as of lap 209 when he wrecks. Who does Jackson Storm wreck? He wrecks Elijah Voltson, but he is not out. And even better for Elijah Voltson, he gets one more of his laps back. Now he's 3 laps down. And Bobby Swift would take the lead on lap 209. But then he would be out because of an engine failure. And after this engine failure, Martin Carrix Jr. would take it upon himself to take the lead, leading on lap 210. But then he would hit the outside wall really hard, and now he's out. Jackson Storm would retake the lead on lap 211, leading all the way until lap 254, where Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, briefly passing Jackson Storm, who then retakes the lead on lap 254, leading all the way until lap 299. Lane Locke would go down a lap on lap 268, and Jimmy Cables nearly ran out of gas on lap 287. Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 299, and then only a few yards later, Harvey Rodcap would take the lead, leading his very first lap. About 35 yards later, Ed Trunken would take the lead, but as pit stops were finishing up, Jackson Storm would take the lead once again, leading for 47 more laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again on lap 347. But then, Ryan Inside Laney would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 354, where Jackson Storm would take the lead once again, and he would lead the final 46 laps. And Lightning McQueen would almost run out of fuel and over-rev his engine on the final lap. Oh no! And Jackson Storm would go on to win the 2016 Lightyear 400, winning his first 2 Piston Cup races. Harvey Rodcap would finish second in his very first race, Ed Trunken third, H.J. Hollis fourth, Ryan Inside Laney fifth, Lightning McQueen sixth, Aaron Clocker seventh, Tim Treadless eighth, Cal Weathers ninth, and Reb Meeker rounding out the top 10, with Arthur Castro being the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 35th. Owen Wheeler will be retiring from Piston Cup racing. Same with John Speedson, both retiring after this race. And here are the race results, with Harvey Rodcap, Ed Trunken, and H.J. Hollis, as well as Ryan Inside Laney, getting top 5s in their very first Piston Cup starts. Aaron Clocker and Tim Treadless also get top 10 finishes in their very first starts. Green Bean Carafine is the only next generation racer to not finish in the top 10, finishing 12th. A very respectable finish for a first race. And Rev Rotages doesn't have as good of a race as compared with the last few weeks, but he still finishes 18th this race. And Jimmy Cables, what happened to you? Only finishing 20th this race. And Terry Carcass gets 100 points as he finished 21st. And Darren Leadfoot rounds out the top 5. Paunchy Wipeout finishes outside the top 25. Same with Ralph Carlo, Brian Sparks, and Dirksen D'Agostino, with Jack DePost rounding out the top 30. And Ernie Garrison finishes the race on the lead lap. Hooray! Buck Beering leaves a little disappointed with this result, finishing 33rd. Then Bobby Rotesta and Arthur Castro round out the top 35, finishing on the lead lap. Elijah Voltson finishes the race 3 laps down, and I feel bad for everyone that finished below him, as they couldn't even finish the race on the track. And before I bring up the point standings, the next generation racers that replaced stock cars will just take over from where their stock car predecessors started. Lightning McQueen is still in the lead, with Cal Weathers in second, Bobby Swift in third, Jimmy Cables overtaking Brick Yardley to be 4th in points. And this is why Tim Treadless is 6th in points, because he took all of Phil Tankson's points from before. Kevin Carvick, Martin Carrix Jr., now Harvey Rodcap, and Reb Meeker will round out the top 10. James Garrison, despite missing his first race of the season, is still 11th in points, ahead of both Ed Trumkin and Aaron Clocker, two next generation racers. And Jack DePost, James' teammate, is 14th in points, and Ricky Axel rounds out the top 15. Followed by Maury Clutchburn, Rex Revler, Kyle Carson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Ryan Inside Laney, who rounds out the top 20 and also takes all of the points that Speedy Comet used to have and is 36 points ahead of Todd Marcus.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
6 teams ditched their racer to hire next generation racers. The only one that was justified in doing so was N2O Cola, as Parker Breakston had been mediocre during the entire season. The other 5 teams were actually doing well, but then they fired or forced their racer to retire, and they're replacing them with next generation racers. Why couldn't you stick with your old racer? Well, it's not like Blinker had a choice. Speedy Comet had a hard crash, just like he usually does. But Green Bean Carafine is also a new next generation racer. At least nobody needed to be fired for him to come in. And I feel really bad for James Garrison and Garrison Motorsports. They lost Phil Tankson, one of their best racers, because Team Nitroade and Andrew Axler were being selfish. Do you think that the next generation racers will take over the Piston Cup and leave stock cars with no more rides? I hope not. It was already not fair that the next generation racers came in the middle of the season. You could have waited for a new season. And the next race of the 2016 Piston Cup season, the 19th race, will be coming out soon enough. But for every other video covering the 2016 Piston Cup season, please be patient, as due to all of the new next generation racers, it will be much harder for me to make the videos quickly. Something that certainly hasn't been quick is the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, as unfortunately it is still going on over 3 years later. The Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom, but this common dream was ruined by the tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin. Even he wants an end to the war, but Ukraine shouldn't accept these terms, as it would let the tyrant get away with his actions. Who knows? The tyrant might try again in the future. Currently, Vladimir Putin's tyranny rules around 1/5 of Ukraine's land, including Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts. And it could be worse, as every day it gets harder for Ukraine to win the war because of dwindling supplies. The lack of supplies is leading to Putin making small gains in Ukraine and pushing Ukrainian control out of the Kursk Oblast. Despite some peace talks that excluded Ukraine, we here at the K-Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny and recognize Ukraine's true borders as shown by this map, which includes all of the territory that I previously mentioned is illegally controlled by Vladimir Putin's tyranny. My message to Ukraine is to not give up. Don't let Putin the tyrant have his way. Slava Ukrainie, Heroyam Slava! Nechai Shvisya Darutsya, Ukrainie Permoha! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon. The odds might look low right now, but don't give up.